Welcome to another episode of the PGTK podcast, an interview podcast. My name is Emmanuel, and on this second episode this week, we have the Rocket, Josiah Jean, on this episode. He is a wrestler currently with Reality of Wrestling, where he is trained under the watchful eye of Booker T. And we talk about his time in the Last Stand Rumble because he is one of the entrants coming in this weekend on March 9th over at Walker, Texas Lawyer Arena. We talk about his year that was in 2023, what Booker T gave him as advice, and what his aspirations are in 2024. Follow this podcast, leave a 5-star review, but most importantly, let's share this episode to 2 people so that people can enjoy this episode along with us. And without further ado, here is our conversation with Josiah Jean. Josiah, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. So, how was your 2023, right? Because you've been up in the ranks in Reality Wrestling. Like, how was your year like?
My year in 2023 was pretty good. As my rookie year in Reality Wrestling, so it was a lot of going with the flow and expecting the unexpected because it was my first run. So, and I did a lot of cool stuff. Got to work with a lot of good guys.
And what's interesting too, of course, having Booker as one of your mentors. What was that like? Did you meet him as a fan during that time?
Not during that time, but I did meet him as a fan when I was like 10 or 12 at a Comicpalooza. And I remember telling him, I was like, I want to be a wrestler. I'm trying to join your school when I get older. You know, I was telling him my great plans, the future and everything. And then I know for sure he doesn't remember that, but fast forward to then joining the school and then becoming the Rocket. So you can't even, I would have even thought that all of this would have happened the way that it's been happening, but here we are. So
you've had some matches too, against you on ringside. I recall going to an event where you faced Gaspar and you saw Booker on ringside. And what was that dynamic like from being Booker the teacher to basically Booker the adversary in that match?
Yeah, so that was unexpected for me going out there the first time. So it was just like, okay, we're here now, so you just gotta show up because he is, you know, on the other side of the field. So I got to do what I had to do. You were there, you saw what happened, so now I know exactly where he stands.
And as you got through your first year, you know, going through that, like, what was the training like? Was it hard at first, or was it something that you picked things up as soon as you got your first bump?
Yeah, so I feel like I've been wrestling since high school, so I was already familiar with the punishment on the body. So that was hard for me to get through. The rolls, that was hard for me to get through. We do that in mat wrestling, so I was like, okay, let's just get it. And then I watched wrestling for so long that I pick up on the little things with how people's footwork, hand placement, all that stuff like that. So it's kind of more natural to me.
And how was that progression like? Was it easy? Did you have some bumps on the road? Like how was that progression like as you got to being on Reality of Wrestling last year?
Yeah, it was well, for myself, it was a lot of bumps on the road. It wouldn't be things that other people notice, but the goals that I have, like the expectation for myself is way higher than the expectation than other people have on me. And then, like I said, being the Rocket, I kind of got pushed way quicker than everybody, so I had to play up in every opportunity that I did have. So those were the challenges of that.
And I'm curious too, like as you started to go under Booker, what advice did he impart to you as you started to really know the wrestling business?
Mm-hmm. So the one advice that he gave me was, if you really want to make it, you got to be the best. There's no shortcuts. There's no making it by. If you really want to make something out of yourself in this business, you have to be the best. There's no buddy system or anything like that. And like he always says, preparation is the only luck you're ever going to get. So I keep that with me every day.
What was that example? Like, have you seen that real life application with the advice that Booker gave you?
In my life?
Yes.
Yes. Of course, because getting in the matches where I'm the younger guy in the match, but there's a vet, but I've been prepared to be that lead role in said match. So if the vet does slip up, I'm not lost because the vet is lost. Because I'm ready to pick up, or if they drop the ball here, I can pick it up and we can keep going and doing what we're doing. So that's a wrestling application right there.
It's like there it is. It worked out. It worked out in the end. But also, what was your match of the year in 2023?
For myself?
Yeah, I mean, even whether it's reality or something that you've done besides reality, what was that one match that says, "Hey, I did it"?
All right, so the match with me would be my match against Dante Smiley. It was up in Arkansas. He's the OIWA champion, so he's the leader of that brand. He's holding both titles actually. So being in that main event spot with the champion and then competing there, that was like, all right, we can do this, being in that type of caliber match like that.
What was that feeling like as you prepared for that? Like, what was and we talked about that advice. How has that preparation kind of applied into that match that made you say this match is special to you?
Well, I heard about it. The first time I was there, it was like, okay, we're going to put you in the title match. Okay, with the champ. All right. So I had about a month to get prepared. So that's what I did. Like in the gym, I was training, I was studying because I knew how I wanted to perform in that match. So, okay, this is what we're doing. We got locked in on this right now. So we just prepared for that. Then when I got there, like I say, elevate and execute. That's a real thing for me. It's not just a punch slider. Elevate and execute and play up to be here with the champ. I don't ever want to be like this or somebody carrying me along. I want to be right there with them. So that's how that went for me. And that's why I say it's one of my match of the year for myself.
That's good. And Last Stand Rumble is premiering on Saturday. And is this your first ever Last Stand Rumble?
No, this will be my second. And last year's Stand Rumble, I finished at number 2, final 2.
Ooh,
this year,
right.
I'm hoping to bring it home. So,
and especially, what have you learned for this Last Stand Rumble compared to your first one? What were some lessons that you've taught that you're going to apply to this Rumble?
In this Rumble, I'm not going to try to solo dolo ride it out. Teamwork make the dream work in these Rumbles matches. You got to try to find somebody that maybe just in the match. I would never say plan to have a partner because you never know if they gonna make it. But if there's an opportunity time for us to double team on a couple people, we gonna double team on a couple people because we gotta get to the end. Then we can figure it out in the end when it's 1v1, Because I don't need the Heat trying to mess with me, try to eliminate me, try to jump me. I don't need any of those problems anymore.
You're just playing the long game at that point.
Exactly. All they say is make it to the end. All right, I'll make it to the end.
How has conditioning been a good part on participating on a Rumble match? Like how has that been a big factor? Lasting, I think this year it's 30, and I think the last year was 32. I think that was the number that they had that. Like how has conditioning been such an important factor on at least like enduring going through that match?
Yeah, you don't realize when you're in the Rumble, you don't realize how slow time moves in a Rumble. And you're in there for a very long time, it seems like. And trying to keep your wind up so you can keep going and fighting, trying to eliminate guys, you got to keep your wind up. And cardio is king, as everybody says. So I do try to do more cardio, more of a CrossFit-esque training. That's the most similar to throwing people and all this stuff. So that's where I try to stay at with my training.
Yeah, especially with Rumbles. Like even this year, I was watching the Royal Rumble this year. Like the amount of people who are in that PLE, and it's amazing. Like especially this year and last year. Like Gunther as an example, he was number 1. He went all the way facing Cody.
Right.
Now, granted, Cody kind of wanted to have his way, but the fact that he's lasted 29 other wrestlers to get to that point is kind of amazing. Do you ever want to be in that position if you do get into a Rumble match where, all right, I'm number 1, I'm going to push all the way?
Yeah, I do. at the Iron Man spot, being number one all the way to the end, just to see if I can do it or prove I can do it more so than anything. That's a tough spot to be in. Like, you saw how Gunther was at the end, looked how he was at the beginning. So that's like, that guy, he's got good condition. He's been working for that.
Is that the one guy that you look up to as a wrestler too, or do you have any other wrestlers that you look up to and saying, "Hey, I want to be like that person"?
Well, Gunther, Sheamus, as far as the workhorses, and then Cody. I look up to Cody as far as branding and everything. But to be honest, when I'm talking about like being a worker, I would say Randy Orton is the guy that I look up to.
What were some special features, like even as you watch like matches as Orton and you're studying tape, what makes Orton such a really special wrestler that you aspire to?
How he makes everything so simple and so intricate and detailed at the same time. Like, people, I know fans don't see the little meticulous things that he does, but like when I'm watching this as like for the detail and everything, like, he's perfect at everything. His selling, his movements, everything.
And especially with what you're going through in your journey in the wrestling industry, what were some obstacles that you've had that you kind of learned along the way, and what were some rooms of improvement that you kind of encounter as you started going into your wrestling journey?
I think for me, it was trying to do too much. For like I remember the first time I had like they kind of put me in the leader role. I was doing everything. I was doing everything. It's like they gave a little kid a paintbrush, and I was just painting away to go, realizing that less is more, and the fans have to be able to digest what's going on, not just see a bunch of things happen at one time. So I try to keep that in mind to take the fans on my ride with me, and then keep them engaged as well, not just be wrestling. You want to acknowledge the fans and bring them in and take them on that ride with you. So yeah.
Interesting. And what can you improve? And we're going to lead this to another question. Like, what were some improvements that you can improve as you look back in 2023 as you started doing your wrestling grind?
Yeah, I actually was just watching a lot of my old stuff recently. It's being engaged with the audience, but not necessarily. I don't mean like just talking to the audience, but being engaged with them, like in my body language and things like that. Even just like a quick glance or something like that, or pointers, things like that, keeps the fans with me the whole way. From the moment I break through the curtain to the moment I leave the curtain. I want the fans to feel like they're right beside me, throughout everything.
And especially when you're a face too, like, you want to get the audience's sympathy with you. And yeah, we talked about the matches that you had with the ones that I came across, especially with Gaspar. Like, you want to root for that guy. And it did happen. You did win one match. It was one match, one time. And all that one win is going to make the audience go over. So like, having, especially if you're a face, like, hey, hey, I'm doing the best that I can. You're getting that win as you go along too. But do you want to plan yourself to becoming a heel?
No, I was planning myself becoming a heel. That's hilarious. I would say this: I am a firm believer it wouldn't by any means necessary. That's all I'm going to say. That's all I'm going to say.
It doesn't matter the route. Oh my goodness. So, but also, like, especially with this year, especially 2024, like, what are you looking forward to in your wrestling journey?
I'm looking forward to expanding my brand and wrestling other places and other states. That's what I'm looking forward to most, is getting to learn from different people in different areas and stuff like that. Just more exposure to different ideologies of wrestling.
What's a dream destination that you have in mind? Of course, with reality, it's a nice likely spot to go to an NXT or being in that brand. Like, what other destinations do you have in mind? Because oftentimes wrestlers are world travelers. Like, what would be that destination or destinations? What would be that spot?
So my spot has always been Japan. That's my destination that I want to go to, because that's a whole nother world there. So I definitely want to go to Japan and try my hand there.
Yeah, it's interesting because you have like the fighting spirit, because especially with the matches that you have, I kind of sense the fighting spirit on some of your matches where like you kind of see the person being determined no matter what the outcome is, whether it's a win or lose, but you did it anyway too. And I was thinking, like, what would be those dream opponents that you have in Japan?
in Japan, well, he just left Japan, but it's always been Okada. Or I'm a top tier performer like that. So yeah, Okada would be number one on my list.
Okay, and what makes Okada such a unique wrestler that you want to face with down the line?
It makes him unique is his ability to connect with the crowd without using his words. He's more. I know they say Hogan was a good pantomimer, but I think Okada has him beat all across the board with the pantomime and everything. You can always anybody can understand what Okada's going through in a match with the language barrier or whatever because his body language seems like that. And then he doesn't. I'm not gonna say he doesn't do anything crazy, but he doesn't do anything crazy either. But he still is able to captivate an audience like that anywhere he goes.
Yeah, and especially with Okada, I remember watching Forbidden Door for the first time, and I after I watched Okada and Danielson, I wanted to check his other matches in New Japan. And man, that guy can sell. Like, holy crap! Like, it doesn't even matter if it's a punch or a low blow. Like, geez, you can tell he's gonna sell that to the audience, and it's like you want to be along with him. And I remember the one of the rubber matches with Okada and Omega. Like, you can tell, like, Omega's doing his thing, but Okada was kind of like the star at that point. I think that was the third match. I think he won. I think you have to look that up. He won that match, but like during that time, Kenny was pushing. He was very much pushing, pushing. But like Okada, no matter what it is, he's always going to be the shine in that match too, which is kind of like very, very interesting too. And have you had like have you ever had like was New Japan part of your influence as you started to wrestle and learning how you're doing it in the business?
Yes, absolutely. Because I remember being in school and I saw somebody with a Bullet Club shirt on. It was like middle school. I'm like, what is the Bullet Club? So that day, I go home and look it up and I find out what the Bullet Club is. And I find Kenny Omega, and along with Kenny Omega, I find out who Okada is. And I start watching all these Japanese matches. Then I find the Great Muta, who I take a lot of influence from. To get back to your question, so the little things that the Japanese guys do, I like. Then I like that it's more sports-based presentation over there. I try to have that aspect in my match too.
Like, what was that New Japan pay-per-view that made you want to say, hey, I want to do this too?
Yeah, I remember watching, I remember bootlegging wrestling.
It's okay. It's 2024.
Omega versus Okada. I remember trying to bootleg that, and I only got to watch like the first 15 minutes like this. This is it right here. This is the money right here. Just being able to tell a beautiful story through fighting is an amazing thing.
Do you have a New Japan Pro event that you want to be in? When that moment comes, regardless of the outcome, what would be that one event that says, hey, I want to be in that picture too?
Man, it's got to be at the Tokyo Dome, baby. It's got to be at the Tokyo Dome. At the Tokyo Dome. It's got to be Wrestle Kingdom. Yeah. That's what I would like to be. That's where I envision myself being at one day.
One time when I was like watching a lot of stuff on New Japan, I kind of like Korakuen Hall just because of how like iconic the venue is. The first G1 that I saw a long time ago, and one of them was at the Tokyo. I'm like, holy crap, did I miss this event? And it's like, wow, it's such a big venue to have, and seeing all the G1 matches there, it's kind of amazing to see that. So, but otherwise, like, we're gonna go for the fun stuff. Like, what are some things that you're doing off the ring?
Off the ring, when I'm not in the ring, I'll be working out, of course. But beyond that, I like to listen to a lot of music. I listen to a lot of old music. I'm watching a lot of old movies. That's over here. A bunch of movies of the past. So that's my little thing. So like, I got Rocky up here and things like that. American Gangsters up there. I like to watch movies, so that's my escape.
Oh, okay.
From wrestling.
I'm curious too, like how are those movies, we're going back to wrestling, with a quick pivot within 10 seconds. how has those films kind of shaped you as someone who's doing wrestling? Like, what were some influences in the movie industry that want to incorporate into your own wrestling persona or your brand?
Well, as far as the more emotional side to wrestling, it's all the Rocky movies. I watch the internal conflict along with the external conflict. I like to bring those elements from Rocky, but like the American Gangster and all these other movies that got super fired up here. It's the confidence that those characters carry anywhere they go. I try to bring that with me without making my entrance, you know. So it's like, I don't know what happens when I walk through that curtain, but it's like a completely whole different person. But yeah.
Were you more Rocky or were you more American Gangster as you started to like learning your entrances? Like what kind of stood out?
So yeah, I know I took a lot of influence from Apollo, from the footwork stuff that I do on the ring and the bouncing, the way I move. But it just kind of going more American Gangster nowadays. So I don't know, more American Gangster Superfly now because I don't know what's happening to me.
But thank you, Josiah John the Rocket, on this episode. And I do want to end this conversation with this. So the World Health Organization listed adolescents between the ages of 10 and 19. Between those age ranges, it's people growing up learning things along the way. Now, if you're in the same room with the young Rocket at age 18, what would you give him as advice, or what would you like to talk to him about?
Man, I would tell him, you know exactly what you want to do. Just go out there and do it. That's what I would tell my 18-year-old self. Spend a lot of time just trying to, nah, it's not time. I shouldn't do this. It don't make sense. How are you even going to do this? I should have just did it a whole lot sooner than I did. But eventually we got there. But I was just telling him, just do it, man. You know you want to do it. So this is the dream. This is the dream, man. Just do it. You won't regret it.
So you're basically like saying, hey, you keep doing what you're doing and just like stay the course that he has already.
All that doubt aside and just go for it, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Where can we find you? If you have anything upcoming, take it away.
All right. You guys can find me at The Last Stand Rumble. It will be release on YouTube later. It's March 9th. You can get your tickets on realitywrestling.com. You can find me on Instagram at the Josiah Jean. That's John, Jean. You can find me on Twitter. I mean X. Find me on X at Mr. Josiah Jean. So that's where you can find me on my social medias there.
Wow, I thought the CM Punk to end the episode. And that was our conversation with Josiah Jean. The Last Stand Rumble will be this Saturday, March 9th, 2024, over at Walker Texas Lawyer Arena at Texas City, Texas. At the time of this recording, tickets will still be online, so please check the show notes if you want to get these tickets on the web, as well as having it at the box office, which opens at 6 p.m. The doors will open at 6:30 p.m., and the bell time will be at 7 p.m. that Saturday. There are also other matches in the card, including a lot of title defenses, but most notably, the Last Stand Rumble itself will have a lot of notable entrants that includes the Boogeyman and Maven Huffman. And on the next episode, we will have a guest who is trained under another prestigious wrestler by the name of Dustin Rhodes. Follow this podcast on X, Instagram, Threads, as well as Spotify at PGTK Pod. Leave us a 5-star review, but most importantly, share this podcast or this episode along with 2 people so that they can enjoy this episode along with us. Send us an email at pgtkpod@gmail.com for any questions, comments, or if you'd like to be a guest on this show. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Be awesome with each other, and I'll see you guys on the next episode of the PGTK Podcast, an interview podcast.